Oh, we're streaming live.
Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, goddesses. How are you on this Wednesday?
Yes, beautiful day.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I missed these chats
When we have to double them up in
I
another
know.
week, and then when you don't meet last week. Yeah, right.
And then we're
So,
all confused about what week is
where
it?
are we? You are right where you were supposed to be. That is where you are.
I know.
I'm so grateful that we are able to jump back on here again today. And I always find my weeks have a more even flow when I have this time to chat with you and to share some inspirations from the divine, and to share with our goddess sisters the things that we experience with the energies of the goddess divine feminine essences that you're working with. So
yeah, isn't it? I find it interesting that we start off of the week with the message from that particular goddess, and how by Wednesday even things change and we might be experiencing something completely different than what we intended. But that's the beauty of all
but I
of
think
this.
I think that's the gift of working with the energy, right? So as energy workers, which is what we are, I think the focus of working with the divine feminine energy is one, to embrace all of the energy that is available to us as women.
Right.
And secondly, it's just such a beautiful exploration to have each week, to be like, oh, I get to work with this energy this week. And like we've always said, we don't go to the deck and go, we're going to do this one and this one. We flip through the deck just like we would if we were pulling a card for ourselves, and see who pops out, see who's ready to share. And that's kind of how the weeks get lined up. And so each week we come into something. It's really always very interesting and intuitive to how life seems to be needing that message in that moment.
Right.
And that was for me yesterday. I just kept seeing 111 everywhere. It was just everywhere. I looked down at my speedometer and it says 11.1 miles on my trip. And then I looked at my clock and it said 11:11. I mean, it was just like all these ones everywhere. And I was like, oh, okay. So there's definitely something
the portal is opening
right now that I need to be paying attention to. And then I started, vacillating in the tool for our goddess this week with Esther. And I was like, well, I'm just going to share about 111, because I mean, that's such a powerful experience to be having. And I think it's in line with the message that she has to share with us. So I'm going to let you share a little bit about that before we get any further into this. Otherwise, I'll go off on a tangent, because that can happen with my Gemini self.
Never been known to do that. Oh, if we allowed ourselves to do that like we always do, we'd be here all afternoon. So
exactly. So luckily I have that Earth, that Taurus moon, so it allows me to go, okay, let's ground some things.
We have a silent something or other to clue each other in, like, okay. No, not really. We just know when.
Not really.
We know when to run.
Ramona just goes, okay, it's time to ground. Otherwise, we're going to be here all day.
That's it.
So with that, let's talk about
Esther. Yeah.
Esther.
Well, for any of you who are familiar with the Jewish tradition, or who follow any of that, you're probably familiar. Well, and Esther in the Bible as well, and that tradition is especially poignant. She is especially poignant in the Jewish tradition during Purim. And they say a prayer to her in the morning and the evening. And basically the story about Queen Esther is Esther, before she was queen, realized that her family and her people were in danger. The king was about ready to do something that was not going to be favorable for them. And what could she do? And she, like some of us goddesses do, we recognize our value and our beauty and our what we can offer of ourselves, our essence. And she won over the king's affection, and he ended up marrying her. And she said, oh, by the way, I am of this lineage, and you're planning on doing something to my people.
Mhm.
I would like it if you would not do that. Basically, it would be nice. And so she essentially, she saved her people. And we've heard this story from a lot of other goddesses and women. And I don't want to say that you work your womanly wiles to win over and that sort of thing, but what she was doing was she was following her intuition. She saw a need. Her ego self may have been in tune to her beauty or outwardly what she could use to attract.
Mm.
However, but it was in her soul's alignment, so to speak. And I don't think she even really knew what she was doing at the time, or until it happened. But essentially, the message, well, she's called the Morning Star, and that's what they refer to of her, because of the bright star. And that's why that they during the festival of Purim, they say a prayer in honor of her in the morning and in the evening, since she's the bright star. But the message is that the ego has a timetable that the soul couldn't care less about.
Mhm.
When we are feeling stressed or threatened in some way, fear can be exceptionally loud, and it can inform the ego to work overtime in trying to get something accomplished or to manipulate something to happen. The natural flow of energy that's always at work behind the scenes, the universe's capacity to assist us, then gets blocked. Okay, here we go. Here's the good stuff. When we are in service of love, we are following the dictates of our soul. And when the ego is in service of the soul, divine timing ensues.
Mhm.
Esther mastered this art. Even under extreme duress, she listened wisely to her soul. She became a queen by letting her love for her people inform her feminine intuitive powers. This is her imperative. Trust that everything is aligning in divine timing. Trust your soul voice. Boom.
Well, and I know for me, this message is one that I have heard for several years through my own explorations and practices and meditations and yoga and intuitive guidance of, okay, these are the steps that you're going to take. And it all comes back to that belief that we have all the answers within us. That if we honor that our heart is the guide, right? The heart is who's taking you on the ride, right? You're taking a journey, you're riding along, and your heart, if you're moving from your soul's self, your heart is where that aspect of yourself resides.
It's the seat of the soul right there.
Yep. And so our intuition, which is here, is actually listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, yesterday we posted the tool for this week was numbers. And yesterday, like everywhere I looked, there was 111, 111, 111. And so I was like, okay, apparently this is a message that needs to be shared with our goddess group, because we're getting signs and signals everywhere. Our intuition is speaking to us through anything. So it's this beautiful like awareness that everything has a spark of the divine. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when there's an animal running around, there's I'm looking that up because there's a message there that is speaking to me, and I want to know what it is.
There's a part of you running around with that animal. What's the message?
So when I just happen to look at the clock and it says exactly 11:11, or I just happen to look down at my speedometer and my trip says 11.1, that's not by mistake that I looked at that moment.
No, because you're not sitting there waiting at the clock until it turns 11:11. I mean, hardly ever doing that.
And yeah,
I try to think, because I see numbers as well, and some people aren't, I don't know, I think most of us in this goddess essence probably do notice numbers, but it may be something else entirely different to you, but
absolutely.
a synchronicity or something like that. But however, when I see fours are what I see most often, or I tune into, I always try to think, what was I thinking right then? What was going through my body or my mind, or what energy was it? And that number will inform or just affirm, okay, you're on the right path. Like, I love the ones because I just think of them as this portal, and then you add, if you double the number and triple, it just makes it even bigger, right? So that's always a sign for me that I'm on the path. Fours are divinely protected.
Yep, I get a lot of threes.
Threes.
I've always had a thing with threes. It's the magic number.
Yeah.
In
eights.
massage, you do everything in threes.
Yeah. That's a very, very important number. The threes.
So that's just one example of listening to your intuition that we're talking about, though. I mean, obviously the story is talking more about her own internal guidance system, and that's what I mean when I say the heart is the guide. Is you have this internal guidance system that if you really listen to it and you act upon those instincts versus this ego.
I'm just going to ask you, what do you think about that ego soul intuition?
So the
connection?
ego mind is, if you look at the chakra system, each one of them has a duality, right? And there's a higher vibration and a lower vibration. I don't like to say good, bad, right, wrong, because I don't buy into that. I think it's a higher vibration and a lower vibration. And it's funny because when I have a client that likes to tell me it's the opposite, like that this is higher and this is lower, which is very funny to me, but I understand his logic behind it. But my logic behind it is the lower vibration is the denser human energies.
Right.
Where the higher vibration is the lighter spirit energy. So let's talk about the third eye, since that's essentially what we're tapping into is intuition. The archetypes associated with the third eye center are the intellect, which is your denser, heavier, lower vibration, and your intuitive. Okay, so you have these two aspects. The intellect wants everything to make sense. It needs to be calculated. It needs to be able to be found in a book. It needs to be able to be explained and in details. The intuitive says, this doesn't make sense. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway, because everything inside of me is saying, do this now.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of how many times have you said, I knew I should have done it that way, but you thought it through ad nauseum to go, okay, I understand that this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And then like whatever happens, and you're like, I knew. Why didn't I just do what
and then on the flip side of that coin page, I have many times where I'm like, I just followed spirit, and it was like, look at everything that manifested by going, okay, this makes no sense. I don't know why I'm doing this.
Like I don't know why I'm doing this.
I could come up with all the reasons why it couldn't be, but I just said, okay,
Right, right. It just reminds me of that meme where the kid is looking cross-eyed and, he's like, I still can't find my intuition. He's
Right,
trying to look at the, it's like,
right.
you can't see it.
So when you're in a quandary about whatever, something that you are just wanting to have a decision about, you could literally run yourself in circles if you only let your intellect decide it.
Yeah, yeah.
If you get quiet, if you get on your mat, if you pull some cards, if you pay attention to the messages that spirit is sending you in all different directions, if you believe in what it is that you're wanting to manifest, you don't have to know how. You don't have, that's not something that you have to have. Your intellect will tell you you do. But it's not necessary.
Yeah,
It
well,
is
I mean,
an
your ego is trying to,
belief structure that says to you, I have to know every step of the way in order to do something.
right, well, your ego wants to keep you safe.
Mm-hmm.
And
Or wants to keep you in control and
in control. Yeah. And yeah. Yeah, so pay attention to your ego, and when you are really,
but you have to actively have practices in place. And this is what I have learned over my 20-year journey of becoming a spiritual guide, is that it's a practice.
mm-hmm.
It is a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly practice. And that's not to say that you have to be so rigid with yourself that you punish yourself if you don't sit down and meditate one day. It's about finding out what your practices are,
Mm-hmm.
and giving yourself the space to have them. So although I love yoga and I get on my mat and I meditate after I do a physical yoga practice, when I go out in nature and I take a walk in the woods or I go to the beach,
Mm-hmm.
that is also part of my practices.
Mm-hmm. I think I already know the answer to this question,
yeah.
How you would answer it, but what would be the one tool that you would recommend that anybody could do to?
Oh, geez. Take a breath. Take a breath. Just breathe. I was actually just speaking with one of my clients about that this morning, about the sacred pause. Like when you're feeling this intensity in your body and your mind and in every cell of your being, that is your body needing to breathe. It doesn't have enough oxygen.
Yeah. Well, that energy is going to get stuck. You need to
right
move
now.
it.
I'm going to start becoming tighter and tighter and tighter until I get some freaking oxygen to my. That is the. So in yoga, we're taught that the breath is the most important aspect of the entire practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the shape that you get in. It's not about how deep you can go into it. It's not about acrobatics. It's about letting your breath unite your body, your mind, and your spirit into one, into union.
Right.
You can't get there without the breath. Breathing is you have that at your disposal any minute of the day, any second of the day. My niece and my son, the go-to response from me is take a breath.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm on the phone with somebody and they're starting, like if I have a friend call and they're amped, can you take a breath, please? That's pretty much what you're going to get from me all the time. Take a deep breath and sigh it out. Let it go. Let whatever this energy is that you got
to move it through. It's going to get stuck
and release it.
Yep.
So even if that's the only tool that you use every day, to do 5 minutes of breathing so that you remember to breathe later in the day when you're having a stress moment. That's an amazing tool.
Yeah, and you'll find the breath in pretty much any modality that, even outside of this spiritual world that we
Because
live in,
breath is the bridge.
the breath, yeah,
Breath
it
is
really is. It
breath
is.
that brings it all together.
People say to me, I can't do yoga. I said, can you breathe? Yeah. I said, then you're doing yoga.
Mhm.
Because you're bringing that all together. Yeah.
So I love that Queen Esther has come into our awareness this week. I love that, because I've been getting lots of intuitive downloads over the last couple of days. So I know that we have some big stuff happening. We've got a full moon coming this week.
Yeah.
And so there's some big energy moving with that.
Always.
So again, it's just another energy work modality for us to take these amazing divine feminine goddesses, women, however they show up to us, whether they're mythical or we're in real life. They're given to us to explore within ourselves how to invite that essence into our life. And I think this message is one of the most important ones that I live within myself, is that my heart is my guide, and if it's not coming through my heart, it's not my intuition.
Right. And take a breath.
Mm-hmm. Take a deep breath. Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go. So.
Good vibes.
Well, friends, please let us know your thoughts and what tools maybe you use to help you connect to your intuitive knowing. And if you have any magic that's happening around utilizing that, we'd love to hear that too.
Yeah, and happy full moon, goddesses.
We will be meeting tonight. If you want to join us, there's time to register still.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Fabulous. All right. Thank you, Ramona. Thank you,
Thank
goddesses.
you, Paige.
I really
always so
appreciate
lovely to
this
spend
time.
time with you.
Well, next week.
We'll see you next week.